So now it's time to do some more hard labor on this thing, on these light parts. So I got some rust on this flywheel and the clutch pressure plate here. It's not bad at all. I can't afford to have it turned, so professionally, keyword professionally. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chuck that up in my lathe and I'm gonna turn it myself. No, I'm kidding, of course. I got some 400 grit sandpaper. I'm just gonna knock the rust off with a DA. But yeah, anyway, this thing fit in here like a glove. Yeah, yesterday I was out here working on my throttle linkage. So I got that all hooked up. I siphoned some parts off of the boat anchor out back. So I got the throttle linkage hooked up here. Of course it's hitting on the tarp, but works pretty good though. And that's pretty much it. I'll go up under here and so I got 3 rubber blocks. All these holes, I mean, they lined up beautiful. And same thing on this side. I still gotta put the nuts and the washers on. I just have to move these air lines because I can't get to anything here. But I mean, everything lined up so good on this. I mean, the bolts with some work just literally dropped right in. So the next thing is to get this flywheel taken care of and get that up in here with about 18 guys. My current mission is that I'm working on off camera. I had to take the steering box off and bring it to several places to try to find the yoke that goes on the shaft so I can make that. Oh yeah, and in the one video I mentioned that this is where the steering shaft used to come out here, but it comes out here now because this was actually factory, and it actually heads right towards where the steering box would go. So I'm gonna have to cut that off, sleeve it with something. Of course these splines are different than the one that's on that, but once I find that, because I don't want to cobble anything on the steering up, that's just a big no-no. And on the front here I have some highly compressed rubber bushings off of the boat anchor too, so I might change them out in the future. These are pretty crappy, but we'll roll with them for now. You can't do that! Ah! All right, it's starting to actually look like a truck now. For once in a long time. Just a lot of measuring and remeasuring as usual. So I got the exhaust done. This is pretty cool. I'm just gonna run the exhaust right out the hood like that. So that's it for the exhaust. I got some genuine cat parts right here. This is my plan for this. I'm gonna use that elbow. Gotta come out of there, go in there, and then, you know, I'll run this exhaust into this is the muffler right here. So that'll quiet it down. Then by the time it comes out here, it'll be nice and quiet. But anyway, I'm gonna use this thing to do that, like so. Simple. The bottom, on the other hand, I don't know what I'm gonna do down here. It comes out right there, and typically it would come out right here and go under this cross member and then to the radiator. But on most trucks, most newer trucks, the radiator comes out down here. You can kind of see what we're up against. Typically the radiators are like, actually this is what this is for, like on a Peterbilt. This is where the radiator would mount right here. And yeah, so that's a problem. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. There's not enough room to make it come through here. That would be ideal if it came through there and then I could just go up to the bottom right there, but that's not gonna happen. There's just not enough room. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is make it come underneath and go back up. I don't know why, you know, when I put this stupid axle in this thing, I measured this thing perfect. The frame's nice and straight, everything's right. And when I put this axle in here, nothing seemed to line up. And I figured it out. If anybody knows what the hell this is all about, they got a spacer right there in this side, but they don't have one in that side. And I didn't realize that until after the motor was in and after all this stuff was made. And now it's all screwed up because in order to get the radiator, so what it is, actually, let me back up. What it is this frame rail is actually 3/4 of an inch higher than this one now. So everything's all screwed up now. So now I gotta compensate and make this 3/4 of an inch higher to get everything straight with the truck. Have I noticed that beforehand, I would have took that block out. I got two theories on why that's in there. Number one, you can plainly see that this spring and that spring have a different arch to it. So I'm assuming this spring was probably replaced, because I know pretty much every truck, the passenger side stuff breaks first. So this was probably replaced, and then they put that spring in it, or that block in it, to make up for the bigger arch. Or on the truck that this was in, maybe they had like a massive, you know, fuel tank on the driver's side that required it to be, you know, by the time the fuel was full, the truck sat level, so it jacked that up a little more. And because what gets me is this is actually, like I said, that throws everything off about an inch on this side. So that's too much blockage right there. I never seen that before. I would have took that out if I would have noticed that before, but I didn't. So basically it's all over but the crying now. I'm just gonna proceed and do it like this, even though it kind of frustrates me, because you know, that's kind of shit work right there. But you know, I don't have a multi-million-dollar garage with a frame shop in it. I'm doing this out in a driveway that's not level. Each one of these 4 wheels on this truck are probably at a different height. So that's just the price you pay for doing stuff outside in the driveway. It sucks, but that's what we have to do. So it's just going to make me appreciate a garage that much more when I get it. So anyway, yeah, that's all I can think of is why that block is in there. If anybody knows, maybe leave a comment. Yeah, other than that, I got these supports built. You can just watch that done on the last clip there. So, you know, that's exactly 6 foot from right there to right there. That's how long the hood's gonna be. But it's starting to look like a truck now. Really starting to get in there. So my plan tomorrow hopefully is to get the flywheel and the transmission in. All right, we can see this fits. I'm just gonna have to fight with getting this hose on there, and I don't want to do it right yet because I still got some other things to do, but you can see where it goes up, comes down, and then that's gonna go right into that hose right there, and then it's gonna go up to that. So it'll go. I mean, it's the right angle and everything. It's just too hard to get it on there and then just take it back off. So, all right, cool. Some good welds on there. I just leak tested it. I filled it full of water and no water came out, so I think we're good. All the oil pan's off, and I spent about 2 hours trying to scrape this gasket off. What a pain that was. I don't know what the hell happened, but that did not want to come off. So I finally got as much of it off as I can. Everything looks pretty good up in here. Liners look good, pistons look good. I wiggled the rods, all of them, make sure there wasn't a lot of play in anything. All the oil, the piston cooling jets look good. And everything looks pretty darn good up in here. Looks like it'll be a good engine. I was debating if I wanted to pop a couple of the rod caps off and look at the bearings, but everything just looks so good. I don't think I'm going to bother with that at this time. So, you know, maybe I'll drive it for a while. In a few months I'll pop this off again, but I'd much rather just get the truck going at this point and see how it's going to work before I put a whole lot more money into something that might not be an issue. Yeah, I'm going to get this oil pan put back on and keep going. Alright guys, we are getting really close to starting this thing. I've never been so excited about something in my life. So let's check out what we got going on. Pretty much got just about all this crap hooked up. And I got the starter in. I actually got 3 of these starters. This one came out of a different cat. So the one that came in this motor was pretty cruddy looking. But I'm running all new air lines like I told you I would. When I ripped that one out, when I took the engine out, I wasn't concerned. I'm upgrading everything because this shit here looks like it's pretty brittle anyway, so I'm just gonna go right through and run all new lines all the way from the back all the way up to the parking brake valve, the treadle valve. The treadle valve itself is right there for the brakes. And one thing that I just discovered on this that I'm super happy about is every time I do one of these jobs on the air compressor, you got these stupid fittings that really suck. These things here, it might look like it's regular 1/2 inch, but it's some weird size that you can't find anywhere. Like nobody has it. It's like refrigeration line or something. Here's some more of it here. This is a thing that I made on the Detroit. And it's always a pain because when it comes out of the manifold on the air compressor, it's that weird fitting, and it's just a pain in the ass. You got to cobble a whole bunch of stuff together like I had to on this Detroit right here. One thing I found out on this cat is it's actually 1/2 inch pipe coming out of the top of the air compressor. And then you got 1/2 inch pipe going into the air tank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run steel line for a little while. Maybe some braided steel line or this steel pipe here, because you can't just make a hydraulic hose and put it on here. There's too much heat. It'll usually blow the hose out after a while. So I'll probably run a few feet of steel line, and then I'll have a hydraulic hose made to go from there to the tank, to the check valve, and then into the tank. You always got to run a check valve between the tank and the air compressor, which I have, that came off the truck. But I got this air hose for the starter made. Yeah, this is an air starter. You just fill the batteries up with compressed air, and then it goes through the hose and starts it up. So I had that made yesterday, and I got to put that on. What else do I got to do? I got the power steering lines done. I got all the other lines done. Made the lower radiator hose, as you've seen in the previous clip. I got this full. I ended up going to a junkyard. This was really hard to find. I called Peterbilt and like a whole bunch of different places and couldn't get anywhere on this yoke. So I actually went to a junkyard that had trucks in it, and this was in a Ford Louisville, and the splines fit perfect. And all I had to do for the shaft is just, this is the original shaft and this is the one out of Louisville. This thing literally just fit right in here, so I welded it in really good and put a bolt in it for extra insurance. So I mean, it came with the slip yoke and everything. I mean, it really couldn't beat it. So I got all that crap back together. I got the holes drilled for these things to go through the frame, whatever they're called. And I got to hook up the air lines from the treadle valve right there to both of these. I got to get different hoses for this because I don't like these. I got the exhaust done. I mean, that was, I mean, how easy does that get right there? And that's like the easiest exhaust I ever did. So I mean, this was already here, so I just had to go from there to the turbo. And I mean, this thing is freaking sweet. Got all the studs in and all that, obviously. I got the transmission and the clutch and the flywheel all in. Sorry I didn't tape that. I had some help over and I wasn't even really going to do it at the time, but then we're all like, yeah man, let's just do it. And I didn't really have time to set the camera up. It only took about an hour to get everything in, but I mean, it was easy. It's really simple. You know, it's just heavy, which I have this Walker transmission jack right here. I mean, this thing's a lifesaver. You'd never do it without this. I just ratchet strap the transmission on that and lift her in. So the only other big thing I'm gonna have to do on this is the drive shaft. So with this being a 9-speed and the other one being a 15-speed, you don't have the back half on this because you don't have the extra gears, and this is about 3 inches shorter from the yoke to that. So I'm gonna try to, this is a bigger yoke, so I'm gonna try to pull them yokes off and see if the other one will fit, so I don't have to modify the one with the carrier bearing. Well, most likely I'm gonna have to extend something on the drive shaft, but we're not there yet. So I'm waiting for my socket. I got a 2 3/4 inch socket coming. I got every size but to get that yoke nut off, and I gotta see if the damn yoke itself will come off, because a lot of these things, some of them come right off and some of them you gotta beat them and cut them and, or what, you know, just hack them right to death to get them off. So but yeah, I really like the way this motor sits in here. I mean, yeah, I got new oil filter on it. Obviously I pulled the pan off, showed you guys up there, cleaned that, put that back on, got all the bolts torqued, heater hoses hooked up. I don't know what I'm missing here. I mean, I just got so much crap going on with this thing, but it's really getting there now. I got those 2 torque arms, or whatever the hell you want to call them, for the radiator. Hold that on so everything's nice and solid up there. All I did was cut them in half and took some 1/2-inch steel pipe and spliced her in. But yeah, and let's show you this too. Basically the clutch linkage hooked right up from the Detroit. And so here it is there, you can see it moving. I don't know if I can, there you go. I just had to bend that a little bit more because this throwout bearing on this is on the bottom instead of the top, so it was a little bit different because the Detroit, this thing actually pulled to engage the clutch, and this one pushes. So I had to take this arm was actually back here, it went like that up, and I had to flip that around and do something for the keyway. But then when I got it hooked up, see, this thing had a little gas motor in it with a little wimpy transmission, so you know, it's never made for this kind of crap. So then after I got everything hooked up, I noticed that when I pushed the clutch in, it was actually pulling this whole assembly up. So if we can get you guys down here, I made this bracket here that bolts onto the frame and that to keep that from, because that's only cast. It's only going to bend so many times before it breaks, and now it's really strong. But I just got to put the shift tower in, and I'm not going to do that until the last minute because it's nice to have this open for room in here. And while I'm here, I'm going to go through, like, this is the line for the air wipers, but I took them out long time ago, like way before I even had a YouTube channel. and I got a window regulator from a Jeep and then like modified the linkage to go in there. So, you know, I don't need this anymore. It's just a potential for more leaks and more crap to go wrong. And obviously I have to put the fuel tank on and run the fuel lines. When I do get this started up, I'm going to fill it up with regular water first and just run it a few times, drain it, fill it up again, run it, drain it, do that until it's clean, because, you know, like $10 a gallon for the frickin' antifreeze, I ain't just going to put that in a dirty motor. So we'll clean her out good. That's a C-17. It's been flying around waiting for it to go right over. Well, that ain't good. What's going on?